Let's bring in Mick Aussie right now. Mick, good to see you. AFL is back. How you doing?
How you doing, mate? You missed me? Been a month since the NFL finished, and the AFL started a week earlier this year, so not much gap between the NFL and the AFL. And showing some love for the Sydney Swans. I picked them to make the grand final this year, and they've come off to a great start. 2-0 they are.
Hey, listen, though, we were going to get you on 2 weeks ago, and I don't know, you were too busy, or you had something, you had some dinner or something, and you had some football banquet or whatnot. Mick was trying to handpick his spots, not this night or that night. And I was like, all right, we can't make it work this week. And then, Liz, same thing with last week. You had a hot date. You're like, yeah, maybe it's best, maybe it's best I don't come on tonight. So it's we haven't shunned you, Mick, right? Now you got your shot back. Is everything all right at the household? You have a nice romantic dinner out?
It was last Wednesday night. I had a dinner with the owner of Edmonton Cricket TV at a fancy golf club. So, yeah, I had to keep that one, mate, because that pays the money too, right?
Speaking of golf, I'm on Wyndham Clark to win the Players' Championship. And he's 50-1, and he's got a 4-shot lead. But there's still a lot of golf left to be played. Xander Schauffele's 4 shots back. We'll get into that. We'll get everybody the updated odds there. But I'm really starting to dislike the Sydney Swans a lot for real. Remember last year? Like that game, I still remember that game from last. Like it really upset me, that game. I don't know why that one just put me over the top. I was having a bad couple of weeks betting. I bet a lot of money on that, and Sydney cost us. It was like $2,000. And I remember I had a few drinks too. I was like, these son of a bitch surfer, blonde ass son of a bitches. Like, bunch of pretty boys. Like I went off on Twitter, you pretty boy bastards. You're the biggest, softest chokers I've ever seen. At least I didn't say they were rigged like everyone else when someone loses a bet. I just started tweeting them how they suck. Right? I was like, you guys are terrible. No wonder you're named the Swans. You're soft. So last night I tune in. There's all this basketball going on. Didn't have a good night last night betting basketball, Mick. And I'm like, oh, the AFL game is on here. Just started. So, and it was 19-18. And it's like, am I going to take Collingwood or the team that I hate in the Sydney Swans? I take Collingwood. They didn't score again after I took them. Like, they got bludgeoned. They got murdered. Like, Sydney killed them last night, Mick.
Yeah, I was just watching it, mate. Absolutely. And the big fella, Mason Cox, the American for Collingwood, he caused some trouble up there in Sydney last week. But, hey, Collingwood were favourites. They lost last week. They got what we call is a premiership hangover, mate. They've been partying too much.
Yeah, they're big heads now, huh?
Stuff,
they think they're stars. They went from blue collar to stars, these guys.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They're the defending champions, guys. I'm like, they're going to win this game. No, they got lit up. So they're 0-2 now to start the season. So next week, they're a lock. They got to win next week then. They're going to be all focused for real.
Well, there's not much in it, mate. You know how quick the game is with the skills and the fitness. They train so hard over the off-season in extreme heat. Everyone's so fit. But if you're mentally a little bit too big-headed and think you're great and you're slightly off the game, you're not going to win. But I picked Sydney early in the week. Then at the last minute, I changed my pick. So you never know, mate. You never know. But it was in Collingwood's home ground in front of nearly 80,000 people, and probably 70,000 were Collingwood. So great win by the Sydney Swans, and take them to maybe go all the way. I picked them to make the grand final. They're a bounce-back year after making it 2 years ago.
Okay, so what about tonight's game that's coming up here, Mick, between the Hawks and the Bombers, Hawthorn and Essendon? Who do you like? It's basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, hard to tell. Now, 8 teams played last week in what's called an opening round. They mucked that up anyway, so neither of these teams played last week. Tough one. The Bombers were 7.5-point favourite, down to 2.5. I do like the Bombers. The Hawks have got a few injuries starting the year. Bombers have got some good recruits, but very hard to tell, mate. First week, there's going to be some upsets like we saw last night. Take Bombers to win and cover the 2.5.
All right, so North Melbourne also haven't played yet. They're getting 49.5 points tonight, Mick, against Great Western Sydney. Should the point spread be this high? That's a lot of points to be laying. And Great Western Sydney did play, and they won 114-82 against Collingwood, as we were just talking about. So they got off to a good start. Are they going to smash North Melbourne by 50 plus? North Melbourne were sort of improved last year and covered some numbers, man. They don't suck as much as they used to, right? What about this year? What's the outlook for them coming into the year, the Roos?
Oh, they're going to be a bit better, but I think they'll still be down near the bottom. I like the Giants to win, of course, but maybe take the Roos on the plus. The Giants had a big win over those reigning premiers, the Rotten Magpies, last week. Second week in a row on their home ground. Huge advantage to have a week ahead of the other guys for fitness, match fitness, the skills, the quicker pace. They might just take it a little bit easy near the end, so the Roos might cover that one.
All right, what about Geelong and St. Kilda? The Cats are minus 13.5 point favorites.
Absolute game of the round, Nelly. It's in Geelong. They're tough to beat down there. But the Saints, they made the 8 last year. Their coach is very good. The former Fremantle and St. Kilda coach before, Ross Lyon. He's got those boys going. Take the Saints on the plus because they might win. It's 12.5 points, but I think the Cats will get it done at home, but could go either way. Tough game. Home field is the deciding factor for me there.
Adelaide, your Adelaide Crows have not played yet this year, so this is their season debut. I imagine you're fired up for this. Adelaide and Gold Coast. This is at 5:10 in the morning East Coast time, 2 in the morning, so it's not that late, actually, Mick. If you're going to stay up for this one?
No. Listen, a lot of
what do? You tape it?
Yeah. A lot of people have tipped the Crows to make the 8. They should have made it last year, except for a silly umpiring decision that let the Swans in. Suns are favoured by 7.5. I would have taken the Crows maybe, but 2 key forwards out. Phil Thorpe and the leader, Tex Walker, is out injured. They had hardly any injuries last year. That's why I tipped them to come 9th. I hope I'm wrong. Take the Suns to win at home. Crows are very average on the road.
All right, I like the pick, Mick, considering as well Gold Coast are minus 148 on the money line. Very manageable instead of laying the 7.5 as well. And also, for people that are new to AFL betting, it's similar to soccer as far as the listing is concerned. The home team is listed on top most of the time. So just for the record, like, North American sports, Mick, the road team, they always do first and, the home team bottom. But AFL, they have the home team on top. So I just want to throw that out there for bettors out there that might get confused about where games might be. I'm going to take Gold Coast minus the 148. Melbourne, the Demons, and Western Bulldogs, the Demons, minus 8.5 point favorites, Mick. What about this one?
Well, tough game. I think it's about a 20% advantage to the team that played last week for those 2 reasons. I'm going for the Demons only because they played last week. They lost to Sydney, but they've got that extra match fitness. Bulldogs are up and down. We don't really know how they're going to go either. Maybe take the Dogs on the plus. Take the Demons 1-39. It pays better than the spread. I think they'll win, but they've had lots of trouble in the off-season. One of their players is in a bit of trouble for supplying some Coca-Cola up the nose. Another player in trouble for too much Coca-Cola up the nose. So trouble at D's. I hope they go 0-2, and we'll find out the real truth of what happened in the off-season once they start losing, mate. Tough one to pick. D's just, I think.
No, it's too bad I don't have that picture up of the Port Adelaide Power plumber in Edmonton that has stolen the logo of the Port Adelaide Power. That's pretty good. Like, I don't know if they're like that. It's so blatant. Like, it's basically their logo, right? Like, that's so, like, over the top. That's too cool. Next week, we'll get the picture up. But Port Adelaide Power taking on my West Coast Eagles, the rebuilding West Coast Eagles. West Coast plus 49.5 points, Mick. Are we going to suck as much this year? But listen, we've had a lot of young players the last 2 years. Are they going to start to get better now?
They will, but it'll be a while, mate. They held on to those old players too long after the premiership, where you've got the jersey from a few years ago. They still got 7 or 8 very good older players, a few younger ones, not much in between. Port Adelaide, a lot of people think they might go all the way, but they get to the finals and they bomb out. I hope again. I think the Port Adelaide will win and probably cover in Adelaide. They'll be raring to go, mate. So be careful on the Eagles on the plus. Take the power on the minus if you're going to go that way.
I miss the good old days. I had good times when West Coast was good, staying up and partying. I remember watching the grand final when we won. I was like, this is awesome. Man, ever since West Coast won, they've been terrible. We got Fremantle and Brisbane. We'll hit this on the other side. 35-35 Virginia and NC State right now. This is SportsRage Level 1, the quickest 100 minutes in sports talk and television continues. Mick Aussie in the house with us. Mick, last AFL game before we get to the NFL. What's your pick for the last game on the board?
Yeah, well, the Brisbane Lions, they came second last year and they got beaten at home last week after being up by 46 points against the Carlton Blues. They didn't lose at home at all last year. They're over there in Perth against Fremantle. They were 11.5-point favourite. They're now 7.5 because their best player, Lachie Neale, is out. I think they'll be very angry, and the advantage of playing last week, even though it's in Perth, take the Lions to win, and I think they might win well. Dockers, you just don't know where they're at.
J.J. McCarthy right now, Michigan Wolverine quarterback, is plus 100 to be taken by the Minnesota Vikings. And remember, everybody, I told you, and I said J.J. McCarthy is going to be a Minnesota Viking, and I said that the Monday night Michigan won the national championship. But the Denver Broncos are plus 400 right behind the Vikings, and the Broncos pick right behind the Vikings in the draft. I tell you, I know that Sean Payton likes J.J. McCarthy a lot, but I think Minnesota like him a lot as well. The question is someone going to jump up to not wait so they don't miss out on him? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but the Broncos are going to have a new quarterback soon, Mick.
Well, we definitely need one, and I nearly threw up Sunday night when I realised that we are paying $39 million of Russell Wilson's salary to play at those dirty, rotten Steelers. I can't believe it. I nearly threw up. And good riddance to Jerry Jeudy. He was taken above C.D. Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and T. Higgins. Who'd you rather have? I'd rather have all three of those. So good riddance to Jerry Jeudy. He was injury prone, dropped the passes. We are in big trouble at the Broncos, and we're up against Patrick Mahomes every year. Damn.
Why don't you blame the team, though, for drafting these players instead of the player themselves? Russell Wilson had 26 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions only last year, for the record, too.
Hey, let's see that.
Level 2 has begun. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. The Pistol Players, the Hustlers, the people, the Buster, but everybody else in between 40-40. NC State and Virginia right now with 11.5 minutes left. Just quickly, as far as Russell Wilson is concerned, as we were just talking about, you know, he had 26 touchdown passes last year and only 8 interceptions. His quarterback rating was 98. All right? Like, for all the doom and gloom about Russell Wilson, his numbers were actually pretty good last year. And don't be fooled by, like, it's not like the Denver Broncos were like a quarterback away from being a good team or something like that. Like, the Broncos are not a good team. They have a lot of holes. Their defense is ranked like 27th in the National Football League last year. Nothing to do with Russell Wilson. Mick is all mad about Jerry Jeudy being a bust. Like, I've said this for years. People get mad at a player instead of getting mad at the team for actually drafting someone, right? Like, it's not Jerry Judy's fault he got drafted before C.D. Lamb. That's the Broncos' fault. Or Justin Jefferson. Why didn't the Broncos, right? But then people, like, put it on the player after. It's interesting. I get it. Jeudy didn't work, but that's not Russell Wilson's fault. It's not Russell Wilson's fault that their O-line sucks and they strike out every time they draft an O-lineman. It's not Russell Wilson's fault they don't have a rushing game, right? It's not Russell Wilson's fault their secondary's depleted, right? Like, their roster is just sort of a mess. So it's not, you know, they're not like just a quarterback away. Like, I genuinely hope for J.J. McCarthy's sake that he ends up with the Minnesota Vikings instead of the Denver Broncos, because I believe the Vikings are a much healthier situation to step into. We're going to bring Lou in a couple of seconds here. Shout out to everybody joining us on Sirius XM Channel 159. This is SportsRage. I'm Gabe Morency on the SportsGrid Radio and television networks. The madness continues collegiately.